Uh, so good evening, everyone. I am Shubhangi, and I welcome you all to today's Kaleidoscope Masterclass. Thank you for joining us today. Everyone knows what is it that we are going to be talking about, and who is it going to be, who's going to be speaking and addressing the audience today. Um, but before we get right into it, I would like to talk a little bit about ANDAcademy for those of you who do not know what is it that we do here at AND. So I am Shubhangi and I head the branding and communication efforts at AND. Um, and is actually a one-of-a-kind design upskilling platform. It is an online design school which was established in 2022 on the pedigree of IIAD, which is Indian Institute of Art and Design, which is a brick and mortar design school based out of New Delhi, Okhla. IIAD has been imparting design education for over a decade now, and actually comes from that pedigree. But at AND, we deliver professional short courses in the domains of graphic design, interior design, and UI UX design. And most of these courses are part-time courses. We also offer one full-time course in graphic design. Um, but most of these are part-time courses, and these are also courses that are designed for people that are working or enrolled in a full-time course and cannot commit to a full-time degree sort of a learning course, or want to sort of move ahead in their career while they're working in their full-time job. So these are designed as courses that help you excel or upskill in their chosen field in a very short period of time without compromising on the quality of education. As I mentioned, all of our courses are delivered online in a live interactive manner. So think of a design school or a design studio that you find in an offline college. We provide you that experience just in an online fashion. So we rely heavily on tech and human support for us to be able to do that. Um, and as I mentioned, we come from the pedigree of IIAD. All of our curriculum are designed by people that are practicing designers that are part of the design industry. So you get very up-to-date, relevant knowledge about what is happening in the design industry, and how should you sort of navigate your way around when you hit the ground running. Um, these curriculum are not just designed by people that are part of the industry, but are also delivered by these people. We also focus more on design processes and principles over just software learning. Um, so we do teach you the softwares, that is your Photoshop and your Figma and your AutoCADs, whatever is relevant for your domain. But what is it that you do with these software? How do you design when you get to these software? The thinking part, the how to become a designer actually is what we teach here at AND. All of our curriculum are also woven with a lot of projects that you sort of collaborate on with your peers or get feedback from your mentors. And these projects then culminate into a portfolio when you sort of graduate. We also really have faith in the quality of design education that we provide, that we also offer a job guarantee on some of our courses. So, and is actually 3 years old. We have had 1,200 plus learners and 50 plus mentor body, 200 plus hiring partners, and we're rated 4.6 on Google. So if any of you want to join a short professional course in the domain of graphic, UI, UX, or interior, you can reach out to us and then we'll just take it from there. Talking about Kaleidoscope, the property, it was conceptualized as a series where we invite design maestros to sort of come and share their perspective on design. And today we have with us Saptarshi Prakash. Who doesn't know about Saptarshi? Saptarshi is a seasoned UX and product design leader with over a decade of experience shaping user experiences at scale. At Swiggy, he has led product and experience design across its expansive ecosystem. A TEDx speaker and prolific content creator with a massive following, Sapta is known for his clarity of thought, creative vision, and ability to demystify design careers. His work continues to inspire thousands of designers navigating their journey in the industry. With that, I will hand it over to Sapta. to address the audience.
Hey, thank you. I think that felt like too big an introduction for me. So many nice words. I really feel good hearing all those things about myself. But yeah, I feel really happy to be a part of this and, of course, interact with all of you. Of course, there's a set of questions and stuff, I think, which and team has decided that they would discuss with me. Post that, maybe, we can open up the space for a few questions if time permits. And, we can directly interact with the rest of you as well. Looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Yes.
Great. So, Sapta, let's start at the very beginning. What's something that people don't find on your social media, on your YouTube, on your LinkedIn, on your Instagram about your journey? Would you like to share some of that first?
About my journey, I think people pretty much know everything, the sheer number of, okay, if you talk about my social media, sure. I don't talk a lot about my, say, personal life or journey related details on my social media. That is Instagram. I still say Instamart for Instagram, Instagram, YouTube, and all. But many podcasts and stuff where I go, I usually speak about some of these things. So yeah, the things that people wouldn't know perhaps is uh, I'm an engineer. I think people know that. I'm a great automobile enthusiast. If not engineering or design or something, I would definitely see myself being an auto journalist. Reviewing different cars and stuff like that.
So which one would you recommend right away, Sapta? Let's begin that dream right away. So tell us, like, in a minute, a car that is, or an automobile that's exciting you right now, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a hint. It's not an electric car. If you really ask me what like I'm really loving at this point of time, there's a car called BMW M340i. It's a 6-cylinder engine. It's the closest to a sports car that you can drive on Indian roads. So yeah, that's a great car. If you can afford it, please buy that.
Even if you can afford it, then you'll need to build roads in India to to enjoy it. But I'll throw it back to Shubhangi to take this forward. Shubhangi.
Great. So Sapta, you've already spoken about your journey and how you started as a engineer and then you sort of moved to design. Was there a point ever in your journey that you realized or it clicked for you that, you know what, design is something that I want to do? When did that happen and how did that happen?
That happened actually much, much later, right? And for the people who are in this call, I'm sure most of you are younger folks out here. I graduated 10 years back in 2014, and back then, design as a profession, at least, this kind of design wasn't all that popular. So even though I started, picking up design a little more seriously in college, but it never felt like a career material that, something that I could pursue my career and then go ahead and build a good life, earn good money, have a good life. What our parents and everyone expects from us. It didn't feel like that. It was just okay. It was a hobby I do, just like you play carom or you listen to music or something. Those are your hobbies. Likewise, design was my hobby. I never thought that the world would change in a way that I could make one of my hobbies as my profession. So to answer to your question, the first time when I was told that I could do it professionally was uh, before joining my first design job. My first design job was in this company called housing.com. So I got referred by a senior from my college itself. So he's also an engineer from IIT Madras. So he was also a design enthusiast. But then, he, of course, he graduated before me. And then, he spent his time in the industry. And then he was a designer at Housing. And this was in 2015, and Housing was, everyone was talking about, hey, they have a great design team. It's like a San Francisco kind of company and stuff like that. So he called me up one day and said that, hey, we have an opening in Housing. Would you want to join? So till then, I never thought that, I could take professionally design because I never studied it, right? He's the first person who made me believe that, hey, you know what, you can do it perhaps. So that was someone else telling me. When I actually believed was a couple of months into Housing, when first few months were actually not so good because it was first time I was designing professionally. So a couple of months later in Housing, in my first job, when I felt that yes, my work was being acknowledged, people were seeing my value, I was actually doing some good work. That's when it made me believe that okay, maybe this is something that I can navigate through.
Sapta, I'm going to keep butting in like this.
Sure.
I'm always curious. So I'll just take a minute. I come from a family of engineers, 3-4 generations of engineers, and I'm a somebody who stepped aside. So I'm still till date curious about how do engineers, people who've been trained in engineering, like yourself, every profession, it trains us to think in a certain manner, and our worldview gets formed because of that, right? How does an engineer look at design? What is it? Or to put it simply, what would be an engineer's definition of design?
It depends on, what kind of engineer we are talking about. Like some of the great engineers, and I don't mean a software developer or a coder. Of course, they all are engineers as well. I'm just talking about hardcore engineers.
Yes.
Some of the great hardcore engineers that I have had the opportunity to interact in my life, some of them were my colleagues in college and all, right? So they look at design in a very technical way, something that, that can make and break stuff. Right. To give you an example, like some of my friends work in this company called Waymo. Do you know what Waymo is? Anyone here? Waymo is a startup based out of San Francisco. It's owned by Google right now. They have this driverless taxis, and it actually works. A few months back, I was in SF and I took it. You book it just like an Uber. A car comes with nobody inside. You do everything with the app. You go inside, and it'll drop you exactly where you want. Right. So if we design in that sense, each and everything matters. The sensor which is spinning at the top, the sensor which is saying that this is my name, which is put out there, because otherwise, how would I know which one my car is? Because the numbers and all are not like that. Or the way the door opens, the way the controls are kept so that it can be safe, even though there's no human sitting at the driver's seat and all. So it's like next level design, I would say, because there is very, very less room for making mistakes, because this could lead to disasters, right? And the same can be said for anything else, like someone who's designing the way aircrafts fly or the way spaceships fly. So design can be huge thing. So if I talk about engineers who are involved in that kind of work, their definition of design would be very different from some other engineers, right? And if you want to hear this, some of the most basic kind of answer that I would get from an engineer is that designers make things look good, right? And that's not right. We all know that. So yeah, like I said, the great engineers know what design is, what value it brings to the table, but not everyone is a great engineer, unfortunately.
And not everybody is a great, I mean, that I think I see actually a lot of design approach, Sapta, in people and in professions who don't call themselves designers.
Yeah.
The examples
Absolutely.
that you gave. I have a follow-up question. What do you think works? How does that training in engineering can help somebody in design, and what can pull them back?
Let me answer the first question first, right? There are lots of things that can pull them back, but when someone asks me, what exactly did you learn at IIT? I say that my major was electrical engineering. I always say that the second best thing that I learned at IIT was electrical engineering. The best thing that I learned at IIT is the confidence that I can learn anything. I think that's what engineering does to you. It's not just a set of instructions that you read the books and then you write your exams and you get a certificate. No, you are often put into situations where you are made to think. There's no straightforward way of doing it. All the theory and the bookish knowledge that you have learned may or may not be directly applicable. So you'll have to actually break down your head and then see, okay, this theory does apply out here, or we could do this jugaad, or we could take help from that person, this and so on. You use your entire brain, all the knowledge that you've gathered all your life, and not just in those 4 years of engineering, to go and build something. It could be something technical. It could be, I don't know, a robot or a self-driving car or whatever, right? So I think that's what engineering, the 4 years of engineering trains people to go beyond the ordinary and to look at things in the most unusual way someone can imagine. And that's a quality which is very, very important in design, because again, when you start working in a real world for a real company, none of the problems will ever be straightforward. You can't expect that you apply a formula and you get the answer, boom. No, it never happens that way, right? It's always something out of the box, something different, something, feels gray. Nothing is ever white or black. So that's when all those jugaad skills that you do back in your engineering days come into the picture. And to answer to your second question, what can hold someone back? Maybe lack of awareness, I would say. Of course, I don't suggest that you go study engineering and then come and be designer, right? Sure, if you are one of that, sure, do that. Like I have done it, but engineering doesn't have to be the starting point for being a designer, right? So, but if you have that knack for being a great designer, please explore that. A lot of people feel that design probably is not as great a career as engineering. Maybe I'll not make as much money as engineering. Maybe there won't be job security, or I won't have the respect and all those stuff. So those are myths. Those are some of the things which can pull people back, I feel. But yeah, that's all.
Yeah. I mean, I have a whole lot of follow-up questions, but I'm going to throw this back to Shubhangi. Otherwise, her list will not be complete. Shubhangi, back to you.
So while on the subject of engineering, it's still one of the most or more sought after roles, or as considered a stable career, at least in India. What sort of was the mindset when you decided that, you know what, I don't want to be an engineer and I want to pursue a very non-traditional, at least back in the day, field such as design? Why did that change happen, and what sort of motivated that?
Right. So I was in a 5-year course at IIT. So it was, BTech and an MTech, dual degree program is what we had called. So somewhere in my second year of study, I realized that I wouldn't want to be an engineer all my life. And it's not that I didn't like engineering. I loved what I did, but or rather, I liked what I did. I didn't really love it. So, I could do it. I know that I could get into some tech job and, make decent money and, go on and have a good life. But then I thought that I could do more. But back then, design was out of the question, like I said, right? The first time when I felt that I could be a designer was when my senior called me up. And that was like 1 year after I graduated from college. So back then, I thought that I could be a great manager. I thought that, I'm a business guy. Of course, I was, picking up interests. I was doing various things within the campus, organizing stuff, this and that, going to companies asking for sponsors, come sponsor our event and all the stuff. So I felt good doing all of them. And I realized that, this is the kind of job, a business person. So my thought was that, okay, I know that I don't want to take up an engineering job. Maybe I'll go ahead and write a CAT and go to one of the IIMs and then have a corporate life that way. By the way, I have that corporate life today, right? And that didn't feel out of the place, by the way, because in my college, vast majority of the people would do this. They wouldn't take up a core job, core as in the job which is your field of study. One of the main reasons was all the other non-core jobs paid you more. You go take up a job in a financial bank, a finance job, you'll get paid more than being a core electrical engineering or a mechanical engineering and so on, right? So similar, it was a very common thing. So I was not like the odd one out. A lot of people aspired to go write CAT and do an MBA right after college and stuff. Even I did, I wrote CAT, although I didn't prepare all that much. I also got calls from 1 or 2 IMs, but they were not the top 3, so I never bothered going. So yeah, that's how it was. In somewhere in second year, I felt that liked it, but didn't really love it, so can't do all my life.
So Sapta, we get a lot of I would say design aspirants who are still exploring, but they think they have figured it out, that they want to do design. And a statement that I keep hearing very often from them when I ask them that, why do you want to study design? Because obviously in an and context, you would have people who've studied various things, engineering and whatever. And then they'll come back and tell me that I love design, or I'm really passionate about design. And I wonder how they figured that out, that they love design without having ever practiced design, or without ever, dabbling with it. And this is a conundrum which I think a lot of youngsters, follow. In India, we expect our youngsters to sort of decide their path before they have seen any of the life and world, right? What would be your advice to, let's say, somebody who's a 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, may have picked up a path, gone to some sort of a undergrad path, whatever they have picked up. and they get this little tinker that acha shayad design or whatever it might be. What would you say that what should they start doing for them to get more sure of that this is something that they want to pursue?
Right. See, what I've seen is, and I'm guilty myself, right? People tend to pick that career which has the highest rewards and the least friction, least amount of friction. That's like common. We human beings, we always want to do that for anything, and career is not an exception. And when in India, when do we choose our career? When you're 16 years old. Now, right after you graduate from your 10th standard, from your high school, you're asked to pick science, humanities, or commerce. Like you don't know anything about any of those, right? How do you pick a career? I'll tell you how I picked a career, right? So I was fortunate enough to have a personal computer at home. My parents bought me one back in like 2000s when I was in school, right? It was like not seen back then. So since I had it, my only thing was I like computers. I like doing a lot of things with it, right? So how can I continue spending time with computer? Somebody told me that engineers spend a lot of time with computers. That's how I picked engineering. How juvenile does that sound? Just because I wanted to use computer, right? But of course, as an engineer, you do use computer, but then there are also many other parts of engineering which you may not like other than using computer. So that's something a 16-year-old kid wouldn't understand, right? So that's how it happens. And another reason, especially in design, that I see, that's again brings back the thing that I said: high rewards and low friction, right? Today I think it's a common thing. Like software developers are one of the highest paying people in this world, right? But to be a software developer, you need to know how to write code, which is okay, not all that easy for a lot of people. Design is probably the only other profession which gives you software engineers sort of money without you needing to write code. And you won't believe the sheer number of people who want to design simply because it doesn't need you to code is alarmingly high. I mentor a lot of people.
I can completely echo what you're saying because I come across them by the dozen every day. That I tried coding, I don't like coding, and therefore I want to design. So
And
please continue.
people don't admit all that every time, Prachi. Like I mentor a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
People get on calls with me
Yeah.
where one-on-one mentorship and all, right? A lot of people say, hey, I'm doing ABC, I want to switch to design. When I ask them, why do you want to switch to design, right? People start with random things like, I want to do something good for the people. I really connect with people. Sure, all those things are there, but why? As in when I keep asking those how, why, and where question, it always narrows down to, okay, I'm not making enough money right now. Right? It always, and it's absolutely fine. You don't have to be ashamed to call that out, right? Everyone has a reason. My parents are retired bankers, right? They were not passionate about banking or something. It was just a good job which paid them well. And that's how they got to raise me in the way I am today. And there's no shame in saying that you want to move to a different job which pays you more. But people try to masquerade it by saying all the other good charitable things that you could do using design. You don't have to. Just admit it and work towards it. You could still do it.
Yeah. Okay. Back to you, Shubhangi.
So Sapta, you've been in the design industry for over 10 years now. I wanted to know from you, what is something that you believed or you thought worked for a designer, but you no longer believe in anymore? Or like it doesn't work when you've spent 10 years in the design industry and you think the mindset has changed about that specific thing?
Well, I wouldn't say I don't believe it, but I was wrong before. I thought that's what matters. I'll tell you what it is. It's theory, right? And the reason I felt so, because like I said, when I joined housing, I didn't have a official or background, design background. I didn't study design. So my feeling was I'm the worst of the lot because everyone else has probably studied design and they're like kicking ass. They're like great at everything they are. I am not. So I felt that design education was so damn important to be successful or do well in this career. That's what I strongly believed back then, at least first 6 months to a year. But now I don't say that design education is not important. If you have the time, money, and the energy, please take it. But I also know that it is possible to do it without a formal education if you don't have the means right now. Because that's how I managed to do. Because theory it makes sense only when you pair it up with practical and you see how that theory functions in real life. Otherwise, it's just a bookish knowledge. You will read, you will forget. The way I learned theory was I did a lot of trial and error in my design work. I tried this, then tried that, and I felt that, okay, this is working, right? And then, I made my own rule that if you do it like this, this actually hits well with the customers and all. And much later, I would go and see that, hey, you know what? There's a theory, there's a law which suggests the same thing, which I had deduced in my head because I started from, first principles and I use my common sense and all, which later it feels very good to discover that there's a theory or a law which already exists. And I felt, when you learn something that way, that you've actually scrabbled on it so much that you've gone to the depth of something to the extent that you have figured out something which is a law, although you didn't call it a law. And then when you see that there's an actual law, it's a big validation. And once you learn it that way, you don't forget, right? So yes, I will say that back then I felt that no design education, as in you can't do it, but I don't hold that view as strongly as I did before.
But I mean, I'm just extending what you said, that you were basically theorizing. If you didn't have theory in your background, the fact that you were constantly experimenting,
Yep.
the search was still there.
Yep.
Which is required even when you study the theory.
Correct.
You can't just take the theory at its face value also. I mean, I've studied design, but we were never taught any theory. So many theories, Sapta, I had to read when I was given a curriculum to teach. And I was like, ye to kabhi padhaya nahi tha. And then when you go and discover, you realize, oh, acha, this is what is called this. Exactly.
Yeah. I had exact same moments in my life multiple times. Yeah.
So, but what I would take away if I were a aspiring designer right now, what I would take away from what you've just shared is that a constant exploration and experimentation, and very thoughtful, reflective, experimentation. That okay, I did this, what happened? I did that, what happened? And then arriving at your own theory, which is also how all theorists arrived at their theories. That's a constant thing. And actually, I mean, because I've been through design education, that's all actually design education teaches you. It teaches.
Actually, you made a great point here. Even when you're studying all those things in theory, you still need to do that. Because I see a lot of people who just blame the education system, that, hey, our education system is so damn bad. It never teaches us this, that, and all. Rather, it teaches us something else, which is not even relevant. But actual point is everything, the fundamentals was always taught. You fail to connect the dots and figure out how to solve your problem with the theory that you learned, right? Absolutely. There's no point blaming the education system. Sure, I'm not saying our education system is perfect. That needs to be improved. But a lot of it is on our side. A lot of the ball is in our court, right? Yeah. So we'll have to do it right first.
I'm connecting this back to what you shared about what you learned most during your engineering days. You in a different way, you were pointing to the same thing, that there were so many problems that were presented to you and you had to figure it out. And in that figuring out, I'm assuming there were a few posts that had been put around which would have helped you navigate that space. And so you were basically, I always say that you collect dots through your education, but you have to keep connecting the dots, like you said. But what education can do, or what formal education can do, is that put you in a room where there are higher chances of finding those dots, because you are amongst a community of and your conversations are going to be around that. So great point there. And back to Shubhangi.
So Sapta, we've already spoken about experimenting and exploring as a designer. Is there anything else that you recall from your early years as a designer that helped you grow most in your practice?
Yeah, see, very soon I realized that the problem solving that we do in design is not different from the problem solving we do in our lives, right? In our lives, we have way too many problems. Right now, we are in a live session. What if I have a power cut and an internet cut right now? How do we continue? I'm sure we'll figure something out. Maybe I'll just step out with some light, with some street light, with my phone, data, internet. It's a problem solving that, you just on the spot, you think something and you do it. If you look at our lives, we face similar problems all the time. You have an important meeting and you need to go somewhere and your cab cancels on you. or you have 5 guests at home and you only have 2 laddus that you can serve. How do you do it, right? All these are small and big challenges. So we are really good at solving all those our life problems because there are no constraints that we put in our head. But when it comes to doing something in design, we always come to that, quote unquote work mode, and we completely forget this wonderful problem solving skill that we naturally have as humans. And we start thinking everything, okay, this is design. How do I solve this design problem? So one of the things that I learned pretty early on in my career was that it's all insane. And I learned to somehow remove that wall between these two parts of my brain, I would say. So now I look at my work problem with the exact same lens I would for any problem that I face in my real life. And that helps a lot. When you put some of those constraints out and just start thinking very objectively in a broad way that what kind of solution would you bring, it leads to much better solutions and creative solutions. I call it first principles thinking, actually, right?
So that brings me to ask you a question which might be controversial, but I'm going to ask it. I mean, I'm also humoring around the fact that when you guys keep talking about back in those days, I feel like a fossil. I studied design in the 90s, so you can imagine at that time. But anyways, the point I wanted to come to was that in the 90s, and I was trained as a product designer. In those days, product design used to be hard goods. The term UX design did not exist, right? And but what we were taught was design process or design methodology, right? Which is essentially what you're talking about, solving problems when you have a problem, whatever, in life, nothing else. As the profession of UX has gained traction, and I understand why that has happened also, and in the interest of time, I won't get into it. But the point is that there are a whole lot of set processes, Sapta, which have come about, whether it is the double diamond, whether it is make a task flow, make a user flow, make a journey map, make a this, make a that, whole lot of tools, formats, and all of that. And I often see students get caught in those tools, in using those tools. So the controversial question is, what do you think simplifying the process or bringing these kind of tools and frameworks into it has actually enriched early practitioners, or is it actually held them back? What if we let them just go organic? Because you said that you've learned it by doing it very organically. So are we helping ourselves by learning these templates, or are we doing disservice to ourselves?
We are largely helping, is what I would say, because it makes our lives much easier. Okay. When you have some set processes, that you don't have to think about a lot. You just follow the process and you are done. But you always need to understand, or at least make efforts to understand, why was that process built in that way at the first place, right? Rather than blindly following something. For example, I'll take a very day-to-day example. If I were to describe the process of me going from my home to my work every morning, the process will include, of course, me stepping out of my door, going to the basement, picking my car, then driving, getting stuck in traffic, and then, what red light, and then go and, park it in my basement, go up and work. Some 6-7 step process it is, right? That is the process of me starting my work at Swiggy, right? Now, if we do follow it blindly, we'll always do the exact set of things, no matter what the situation is. But what if today I'm working from home? Do I really need to step out of my house and drive my car to come back to the same place and start working here? No, right? So if you blindly follow a process, it is equivalent, even though I'm working from home, but since the process says that I'll have to drive the car for 45 minutes, I'll go drive around, then come back and then start working. It is that. So the key lies in understanding why the process was built in the first place and for what gain. All these are built for our comfort, are to make things easier for us. So just focus on this part, that why was this process made? What is it easing? And you will for sure figure it out, if you think or if you read about a bit. If not, please don't blindly follow anything. is all I would say.
Essentially,
Right?
you are saying what you had said previously, that, come back to the first principle of that process
When you
also.
need to, right? Again, see, I'm an engineer. I like to quote a lot of engineering anecdotes here, right? There are 160 people, and I like to believe many of you might have written engineering entrance examinations. Do you know what is the difference between an IIT JEE exam and any other exam? These days, it's not called IIT JEE. It's called, I think, JEE Mains, JEE Advanced, and a few other, right? I'll tell you what the difference it was back in my days, right? In any other exam other than the IIT exam, all the questions would be some or the other formula based. You figure something out, you apply a formula, and you get the answer. Whereas in IIT exams, and that's the reason why everyone calls it tough, the problem solving actually happens in your head. You will have to see and analyze a situation. Say if it's a physics problem, something mechanics, some ball is moving and all, you will have to mentally understand how is the actual ball moving. And then they might say, okay, what is the minimum distance between the spin and the ball, right? And the final answer you get by applying a formula, right? So a lot of this thinking, there's no formula. You just think how this ball is moving, and then at the end you have a formula for finding out the distance. Now, if you don't have that formula, you would again get into first principles to find out the distance between that. Sure, you can do it, but it takes a lot of time. So everything has got its place. You need the formulas, you need the processes when things are straightforward and but you should be smart enough to know when you apply the formula directly and when you break the rule, and then see how effectively can you do it otherwise.
Yeah. So what I meant, actually, maybe I didn't articulate it correctly, is to understand the underlying principle behind that process, because that allows you to, for want of better word, manipulate that process or tool when the need arises in the appropriate manner. Yeah. Okay. Shubhangi.
Yes. So this is a term that we sort of hear in the design industry and forum again and again, which is good design. So what do you define as good design and bad design? I think everybody's sort of wanting to know that.
Oh man, this is a tough question. Okay, let me try, right? I think, I've been asked this question many times, and I think I've answered a different answer every single time, but let me try to collate and give you an answer. Good design for me needs to be at least three things, right? It should solve some of my problem. The solving problem could be, some real problem, like, I cannot step out, food coming to me. Yeah, that's a problem. Or my house is not looking good, and this is bringing some aesthetic balance to my house. That is also a problem, right? All of these are problems. So let's not just go into the serious world. So it should solve some problem. It should be simple, and it should be beautiful. Like, these three are at least my definitions, I would say, for good design.
Yeah. And what is your process to sort of arrive at the said good design? And has it evolved? I'm sure it has. And how has it evolved?
It hasn't evolved all that much. Like I said, now very early on in life, I think I figured out that first principles is the way to go about. So that helps. That's usually a lot of people figure it out later. Maybe they start with processes, and over time they say that, hey, you know what? It's much better if I think from first principles, because none of these problems that I'm solving are easy and textbook, right? But that was already my habit for whatever reasons, right? So now process hasn't changed all that much, but with every passing day, I feel I reach different levels of depth and details, right? The details and stuff which I might not have considered before, I start considering them now, right? And some of these small details might actually bring big value or big, impact to the stuff that we are making. So I would say that is the process change that I have brought. But in general, I usually start my problem without any constraint, absolutely no constraint. I imagine that we are in a hypothetical world. Everything is possible. Every technology exists. It is just me and my mind. We go fly and figure out what is a solution that we could bring. And that has led to a lot of things, which were not possible back then, but they're possible now. Right? I mean, I think it is still online somewhere. If you manage to find my old Behance profile, you will see one of the case studies that I had made in 2014. That had actually got my first job at housing.com. There it was called a split app, where you can just split your bills. Like, you have Splitwise. We have a Splitwise app, right? It's a chat-based version of the same. And there I had imagined something that you could send money over chat. How? UPI didn't exist back then. I just thought that, if I send an amount and I add a pin in my chat, it can go and stuff can happen in the back end, which could transfer the money in, say, Prachi's account. I imagined that all the UPI, none of those existed back then. Today, it's a norm. You can send money over WhatsApp. You can send money over Google Pay, which are essentially like chat things, right? So all this were possible because I always began my explorations at no constraints at all. What can I imagine? Let me go ahead and imagine. I still do that for whatever project I start. And then as I proceed, I slowly keep bringing constraints, because now I'm not just doing for my portfolio that I can put something futuristic. I need to make it live. And for that, we'll have to abide by certain restrictions that we have. So yeah, that's my process pretty much.
You've essentially defined the double diamond or the triple diamond only, because that's what you do. You first go wide and then you come back. When you bring in your constraints, you come back, you expand again. Any tips, Sapta, on when is it the right? I see the young designers struggle with this, that when do I bring the constraint in? Should I bring the constraint in now? Should I continue with more of this out of box thinking? Any tip? I know it's not a simple question to answer, but yeah, anything?
I think a lot of, if I were to just sum up your question, you said that when is the time you start converging, right? I would say it's timeline backward, because when you're in that mode, you can actually keep flying and keep going wider and wider. You could keep imagining larger and larger things, which is a fun exercise to do. At times I do, just in a conversational way with my like-minded people, like-minded friends, where we just never converge. We just keep going wider. It's just a fun exercise, right? But when it comes to working for a real company where we have timelines, we usually go backward, right? So what I usually do is around first 1/3 or half of the time, I like to go wide, right? Now, whether it is 1/3, half, or even less depends on situation, but roughly, mota, if I were to speak, around 1/3 to half the time we can spend going wide. And after that, you start bringing constraints, right? So because see, most of the times we know the constraints that we have. It's just that we are ignoring them. So, bringing in the constraints isn't all that tough. So, it's okay. You understand the constraint. Okay, maybe this needs to be tweaked, or okay, let's not do this. Let's keep it the standard way. And then, the rest of the things. So, that's how I have been doing. But it's not an absolute answer, Prachi.
No, this is quite actionable. I mean, because you've put it, put a number to it. It's quite actionable. Thank you for that, Sapta. Shubhangi, back to you.
Yes. Moving to the work that you have been doing, Sapta, do you recall, or do you want to tell us about a project that you didn't expect to succeed, but it did, or vice versa? You expected it to.
Lot. Okay, a lot of them. I don't know which one to quote. Oh man, many projects at Swiggy, which I did thinking, okay, it's just the project, but then we were surprised at the kind of business returns it gave us, right? So like Swiggy Bolt, it's our 10-minute food delivery system from restaurants, right? Of course, it has got Operation Sorcery, where we figure out how to get the food from nearby restaurants and stuff like that, right? At least I don't know what my business counterparts might have thought. At least I thought that, okay, it's another thing. We'll see how much can we fulfill the timelines that we are mentioning. But then when we built it, we were surprised to see the numbers that we were hitting, right? Both in terms of order numbers and our fulfillment rates. When we say that it's going to come to you in 10, 15 minutes, what % of the times we were actually fulfilling? Some of those numbers actually surprised me. That's one. A few other positive things. Of course, I'm not going to pinpoint because I'm not allowed to. At Swiggy, we function at scale. Like we have millions of orders every day. So which means even if we make the smallest change, we get to know its impact in no time. So within 2 or 3 days, we will have a good idea whether it's working or not. And within a week or so, we'll be in a fairly good position to take a call if we should pursue this or not, right? We have seen small things like, just reducing the size of something or increasing the size of something by a couple of pixels and all, giving us, good returns. So yep, that's the magic of working in scale. It wouldn't happen if your company or the product that you're building doesn't have the kind of scale that we have. So yeah, those were some things that really surprised me, and many things which there are also many things which didn't work the way we had expected. And I can actually talk about my very first project at Swiggy that I had worked on. So it was called Swiggy Daily, like long back, like 7 years back. And it was a separate app that we had made. And back then we thought that, this would be the subscription app where you could subscribe to home style meals. Now, these food wouldn't come from restaurants, they'll come from home kitchens. Like I could sign up as a kitchen, so I could cook, 10 or 15 plates in my home. And then, Swiggy would take care of the delivery and stuff. So there was a good ecosystem that was made. We had to shut it down within a year. And one of the main reasons was COVID, because safety became an issue back then. And, these were all home chefs and all. So we felt that it may not be the best thing to pursue during COVID, but I would definitely love to see that come back someday. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, if the idea sounds quite interesting. In fact, it would have worked during COVID, barring the safety issue, because COVID actually created the context for this to be there. Everybody was working at home and nobody had help at home, all of that. It could have worked very well. Yeah, Shubhangi, please.
Yeah, I'm jumping around a little bit, but we also I see that in the Q&A we have a bunch of questions from our participants about AI and stuff. So I'm just gonna jump to that section of this talk. We do live in the world of AI, and AI tools are coming by the minute. For us to be sort of functioning as designers and as thinkers with so many AI tools coming up, how important is it to formalize your UX education or to actually build your fundamentals properly in this age of AI and like rapid digitization and rapid building of systems?
Yeah. Well, honestly, my advice would be to get yourself comfortable with the tools that are coming, and particularly one kind of tools, which is the vibe coding tools mostly. Like vibe coding is essentially when you put a comment, you're just talking to an AI and it is building stuff for you. Today it is building websites and apps and all for you. What I feel is in the future that could be one of the ways of doing anything on the internet. Maybe the way you're designing, the way you're writing, it all could be instruction based rather than you moving on things. I'm not saying rather than, that would also be there. So today you design on Figma by moving shapes and things around. Tomorrow you could of course move things around, plus you could also chat and ask Figma to do something on your behalf, so that you don't have to move around everything, which will save you a lot of time, and so that you can focus on the thing that really needs your active attention, right? So that's the advantage which we are going to get, and I'm fairly confident about that. I already see a lot of signals in the industry that is suggesting that. Now, the reason why I'm saying all of you should start getting comfortable with it, even though it is fairly simple to use, is because otherwise you will feel left out. I'll give you an example. So imagine you're watching a movie with you and your friends, and then you get a call, and you just step out and you take the call. Now imagine if the call had lasted for 30 seconds, you would come back and you don't have to pause the movie. You just come and ask your friend, hey, what happened exactly? And they'll tell you in 30 seconds this happened, and sort it, right? But now imagine you get a call and that call lasts for 30 minutes. Now when you come back, the movie would have progressed so much that your friend won't be able to explain you without pausing. They'll say that, okay, you know what? You now go, you come and watch it later because we have already, the ship has sailed. AI is kind of similar. Things are moving really, really fast. So no one is an expert in any of these tools, trust me. You'll have to keep getting comfortable so that as and when it improves, you won't feel like, hey, it is 30 minutes away and I can't follow the movie anymore, right? That's the reason you should keep getting comfortable, keep trying out whatever is coming, so that, whenever new things come, it'll just feel like, okay, 30 seconds back, it's very easy to catch up. That's the only thing. It's a more of a psychological reason rather than anything else. Please try at least some of these tools, right? I recently actually 2 days back, I posted a video on my YouTube channel. It's a 30-minute long, I call it the roadmap video in the world of AI. I highly recommend you check that out. I've covered some of the things that I've just spoken in brief now, and also much more around how you can leverage AI. So yeah, that would be my advice.
And how do you see design education or a role of a designer getting affected and evolve with AI coming into the picture?
Yeah, I think biggest fear that people have is, am I going to lose my job because of AI? Some of you might. Depends on where you are. See, every profession is like a pyramid, right? Some of the people are at the top, some of the people are at the middle, bottom. I'm not going to draw lines. I don't know where the lines sit. People at the bottom, there's a great chance that might get replaced. Because see, there are designers at different levels doing different kinds of work, right? Some of you might be, thinking and solving some real world big problems, which needs a human being to come and do. Many of you might be doing very transactional work. Okay, maybe no one in this group, because I understand these are and alumni and professional designers already, but there are many designers in this world who are doing some of those things. And now, if a tool is doing it faster and cheaper way, why would someone hire the human? I'll give you an example. One thing which has come, like I'm a YouTuber, you know that. I've been creating content for the last 4 years or so. Back in those days, yes, I'm saying back in those days for just 4 years back, there used to be a role called subtitle writer. Those are the people who would watch the video and at which second, which word I'm saying, they would write it manually. Okay. Today, it is automatically done by any video editing tool. Even before the AI wave, even before ChatGPT came, Premiere Pro and all those tools started doing it. So those people who used to charge some 500 to 1,000 rupees for writing the subtitles for a 30-minute long video, nobody wants them. So they lost their job in it. So if your specialty was just writing subtitles, you will lose your job or anything similar. I mean, that's just an example. Like, just see what could be the equivalent in design.
Yeah. Anything I think that requires deep thinking. There is still time for that. It's I think it's the same thing, na? I mean, when my father used to work, he used to get a stenographer, a typist, and all of that. By the time he was retiring, those roles were gone, and he had to learn to do it himself. Today, none of us. I mean, my CEO books his own calendar. He doesn't have a have somebody else doing that for him. So I think those kind of things, roles will definitely change. Shubhangi, I see a whole lot of questions from the participants. Do you want to just pick up a few from there?
So we have a bunch of these questions about AI, so very specific AI, Google Stitch AI, Gen AI. How do users or designers incorporate that in their workflow? I think bunch of people are asking that.
Maybe I can give one answer for all those questions. Yeah.
How do
should
you
I?
integrate
Yeah.
AI with
I
design?
think, to be honest, you've sort of broadly covered the AI, whatever theme-based questions. But I was
But
wondering.
maybe I'll just add one more, since people have named some of the tools. See, all these tools that exist, none of them are perfect. In fact, Stitch, the version that I had used when it was launched, it was horrible, right? It was just horrible. The kind of output it gave, not usable at all. But these tools will all get better. Now imagine that all these tools that are available right now are in their worst possible stage. They will only get better. Okay. And of course, some of the vibe coding tools like Lovable Bolt and all are pretty good already. So your job is to get comfortable. Like today, get comfortable using that bad tool that is producing bad output. Tomorrow, it is going to produce really good output, and then you shouldn't feel left out. So just get comfortable how you use that tool, and rest of the things should be fine.
I think in this scenario, your fundamentals sort of become more and more and more important, which is something that we also stress on in our curriculum at AND. So yeah.
Shubhangi, can I pick one question from the list? I mean, it's actually a combination of a couple of questions, Sapta. People who are starting off, how can they structure their portfolio? What kind of a case study to focus on? Or just, I mean, if I sort of summarize it, what can they do to stand out? Because I know that there is one job posting, and within a few minutes, there are a whole lot of resumes and portfolios that come in. What do you think can help them stand out at the time of application? I actually have a follow-up question. What helps somebody stand out once they've got an opportunity in an organization? So if you could answer both.
Right. See, the first part I will say is actually pretty easy, but it's a shame that Most of the people don't do that, right? Now, you might be thinking you need to do a whole lot of things to stand out, but the reality is you just need to do two simple things which people are failing to do. I'll get there, right? In portfolio, see, a portfolio is nothing but something that will speak on your behalf when you are not in front of your potential employer. That should speak about your abilities. And two of the major abilities that any company sees, at least in the first stage, is your problem solving skill and your crafting skills. These two things needs to be reflected in your case study. All right. The fact that if I throw any kind of problem at this person, is this person smart enough, intelligent enough, resourceful enough to go back and discuss, brainstorm, and come up with a solution? That's number one. Second thing is, okay, now that you have got all the ideas and thoughts in your head, how do you create artifacts out of which, using what people, your end users can touch and interact, essentially the stuff that you do using your tools, right? These are the two things that needs to be seen. I review a lot of portfolios as a part of my job and also beyond that. And trust me, if every 100 portfolio that I see, there were barely 3 or 4 portfolios that I will feel like shortlisting. And maybe barely one I would think of hiring, maybe at times even not that. That is the state of some of these portfolios in today's world. And I'm not just talking about beginners. This is also for people with a couple of years of experience. Although the number of designers and design aspirants have grown up, the people who are really good, who are actually employable in one of the top companies that you would want to work for, they're actually very, very small. Because the rest of the people are missing out on those two fundamentals itself. They're not good at either of those two or both, or they're failing to show them on their portfolio. So if you take care of this, the basic fundamental, you're already, on the top, I don't know, 2 or 3%, I guess, right? So you do the basics and you're already standing out. Beyond that, of course, you can use your, charismatic storytelling skills and how you're narrating your case study rather than writing it in a straightforward way. You could do all of those. Depends from person to person. Some of you might be better with something, someone else could be better with some other things and all. And in today's world, since it's 2025, I would also say that pick up AI in all the case studies that you write, in the projects that you work on. Maybe do mention about some of the things that you've done using AI in that. It could be, you did some deep research using AI by letting it scan through different user research reports around the world and then crunching and giving you some sort of insights. Or, if AI has helped you build some user personas or anything at all, like to keep mentioning about them. Or even if you have created a working prototype using vibe coding or something, just mention about that. It just shows that you have that appetite to learn something new and you're AI literate. Yeah. If I ask you to figure out something with AI when you're in the company, you won't have cold feet. Like you'll be able to figure it out and do it yourself.
Yeah, actually, I just want to add to that, Sapta. I've observed that a lot of people, and I think because the whole AI space is moving so fast, one started by hiding the fact that I have used AI, and that there is a sort of an inertia around it. So even when people are using AI, they're not demonstrating it in their portfolio. They're in fact trying to conceal it or hide it. And I think sometimes it comes from the lack of confidence, but this is a great tip that, and I'm hearing this, by the way, Sapta, not just from you. I've been speaking with a few other, design leaders as well. And everybody is telling me, so I'm using this forum to sort of put this out for everybody, that recruiters are happy to see your proficiency or your ability to work with the AI, but not, I don't think in the namesake, like just generally the jabardasti, because dalna hai to ab ek AI wala cheez dal do. Like, have you been able to use your problem thinking hat and use AI, intelligently? So yeah, that's a good insight. There are actually some very interesting questions. Somebody has a question on Swiggy also, Sapta, about a feature, why that feature is not there. Do you want to take it or not take it?
Which feature? I'm trying to find that. Which feature is being...
I'll find it for you. I saw it. I think it is
chat.
Shubhangi?
Chat. Not in the Q&A box. It's in the chat.
It's in the chat. I thought it was in the Q&A also. They were saying that why can't we, I'll recall it from my memory. Why can't I add dishes from different providers into a single order? What is the business thinking behind it? That is a question on Swiggy.
Okay, I can go on and on this. But see, a simple answer is operational efficiency. Now, operational efficiency, how does it translate to in simple words? It is the time it takes for the delivery to happen and the money it costs for the delivery to happen, right? Or a combination of both of them. And when I say time and money, it is not just only Swiggy is getting affected, the customers could also be getting affected, right? Now, imagine if you add multiple, we could, of course, let you order from multiple restaurants in the same order. Then what happens is two things can happen. Either, say, if you have items from two restaurants, we could have one partner first going to this restaurant, then picking up from this restaurant, and then coming and bringing it to you. So it's going to take time, right? Because one person is doing the journey, unless both the restaurants are placed close to each other. But if you're in the order building mode, you may or may not be in that state that, okay, this is nearby, so let me order the desserts from here. You may or may not be in that state of mind. The second thing is when we bring in two delivery partners, one going to this and the other going to that. Now that is equivalent to you are placing two orders, because if there are two delivery partners going, you're paying twice the delivery fee, although you might be saving on time. So it ends up being two orders, which is being masqueraded as one. Sure, maybe we can do that, but then probably that's not what you have asked for. So short answer, it's an operational challenge. Having said that, yes, we have our bright minds who are thinking constantly what could be done, removing all constraints, like I said, blue sky thinking. So maybe we'll have some breakthrough someday, and then you'll get to see on the app.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly move on to the last few questions of mine so that we can sort of pull this session together. So we have a lot of people who may be looking to jump into or switch to a career in UI UX, or who are already enrolled in a course, maybe at AND, maybe somewhere else. What do you think from your early days, if AND or a body like, or an education institution like AND had existed, what would be your thoughts, or what would be your sort of way to approach that? And what kind of people should get into UX and what kind of people should not get into UX? What is your thoughts on that?
Okay, multiple questions here. I would say, even though I don't have a formal education in design, but I still tell everyone, if you have the time, money, and the resource, please go get it, right? Do your due diligence, which college, which institute, course is the right for you. Please go and do that, because the feel of doing this together with your peers, with your professors, in your working group, it's a different thing altogether. It's not just about the things that you learn in the classroom, it's way beyond that, right? So if you have the means, please go. And looks like you folks at AND have done some good stuff with the curriculum. So, that's definitely one of the things that you can consider. Yeah, that's what I would say. I'm not a person who just blames the education system. I have faith in my education system. I know the benefits that I have got out of the education system. I'm the father of a newborn daughter. I'm going to send my daughter to a college and not say that, no, the education is bullshit or something. No, I'm not that person. So if you can, please go. Now, coming to the second question that you mentioned about who are the kind of people who should go to design as a job, UX design as a job, right? Well, I think you all have heard about, I'll try to give a broad, but at the same time, short answer, because I know that we are running out of time. You all have heard of the left brain, right brain thing, right? One part is the analytical and the technical part, which is good at math and deducing those. The other part is the creative and poetic and artistic, everything. This job is probably one of the fewer jobs which needs you to use both sides, right? Only one side. No, you may still be a designer, but not a great one. You'll have to know both. Like, now you can probably connect the dots, right? When I said that the two things that I need to see on a portfolio, your problem solving and your crafting abilities, which are nothing but the left and the right parts of your brain, like your display of how well your left and the right parts of the brain work. So this is a profession where you'll have to use both in some shape or form, right? You're not expected to be a Leonardo da Vinci and making paintings. Neither are you expected to be an Einstein doing math and all, but you need a bit of both. So if you're not comfortable doing that, please don't come in this profession. You will hit a ceiling very soon. For everyone else, please come. I don't see a way why you shouldn't. Because I believe all of us are designers in some way or the other. We design our lives, if not anything else. So all of us are a bit of designer inside. We just don't do it for others. We do it for ourselves.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean,
And
if both sides are working and they're talking to each other, that's one.
Yeah.
You know, I see that I sometimes come across people who have both the sides of their brain working, but don't know how to, sort of bridge the two.
Oh,
So, but
yes.
design education can teach you to bridge the two. Also,
Right.
I mean, good, decent design education
Right.
can do that. Yes, Shubhangi.
Sapta, you influence a large community every day with your platforms. Who or what influences you? Where do you look for creative inspiration?
Creative inspiration. Well, I'll give you a boring answer. I keep my eyes open because I know that inspiration can come from some of the most weirdest places you can ever imagine, right? So I have made, a lot of things which have been termed creative, and the inspiration had come from simple stuff like my drawer. You would never, look at how your drawer pulls out and then think of getting some creative inspiration from that, but you can, if you have the right mindset and if you're observing all things properly, right? So yeah, that's what I keep a look around the world at each and everything, even things which are like far away from design or creativity or anything at all. The other thing, of course, are the usual suspects. Like, I look at a lot of references in the digital sense as well. Like my app is filled with apps from around the world. I have tons of Chinese, Korean, Arabic, Latin American, European apps on my phone. I use them just for references. At times I don't even understand the language, but I see, what interesting patterns do they use. And when you see all of them, you'll see a pattern. That region does things like this region does things like this, and then you can always try to adopt some good practices from every world and do something good for yourself. So that's another thing that I do. And of course, Pinterest, Dribble, Mobin, all those platforms, just keep looking at them.
And
Yeah,
my
a lot of visual diet for a visual
A lot
visual
of
diet.
visual and intellectual diet as
Yes.
well. It's not just about looking at things, but trying to break that. Somebody who is using that, somebody who has made it, what were they thinking when they made it? Because it's always like somebody smart has made it. What led them into doing this? So it's a lot of curiosity, I would say.
Right. And my last question for the evening. I know that we have so many questions and we will not be able to take those, but and I really enjoy asking this question to everyone because I get such a kick out of knowing the answer that everyone would give. If you were to redesign something today, something as small as a safety pin or as big as the Delhi Metro railway system, what would you redesign?
I would redesign our roads. I I hate them. I'm not just talking about the potholes and all, but they need to be designed in a proper way. You would see one approach road coming from the service road, joining the highway, and right there's a bus stand, which means that every time you come out of that, you can't go because there's a bus probably which is standing. So I would probably space them out. The bus stop needs to be at least 30 feet away, and some of the things that we do on our interface, I'd want to do on the roads, so that they become more usable. So yeah, that's something that I would want to do. If you want a digital answer, all the finance apps in India, the bank apps, not a big fan of. I would want to, do something to them. All the government websites and apps, not a big fan at all. I would love to work for the government someday and then, fix all of these. India needs a good branding, I guess, where there is some uniformity in terms of visuals, in terms of the way it works and all of them. Yep.
Right. I think with that, we've come to the end of this session. Thank you so much, Sapta, for doing this for all of our learners and people who've stuck around till the end of this session. Thank you for joining us today. If you're looking to join a course with ANDAcademy, please write to us at apply@andacademy.com and we'll get back to you. You can also find a number on our website, which is andacademy.com, and you can call us. Thank you, Prachi ma'am, for joining this session. And yeah, with that, I say bye-bye.
Thank you, Sapta, and all the best to you with the little one. You are
Congratulations.
embarking on a new design journey, shaping the future of one human and adding to the world through that. So all my heart to you and your family for that. And thank you so much for this. I've thoroughly enjoyed. It's been 3 very long days for me, but I've completely enjoyed myself in the last 1 hour. Thank you so much, Sapta.
Thanks a lot, folks. Thanks a lot, ANDAcademy, for inviting me and doing this and creating this opportunity for people who could come and interact and get at least some of their questions answered. And I hope you learned a lot from the other discussions that you had, even though the questions had not come from the audience. So kudos to you folks for organizing it in the first place and inviting me. And I had a lovely discussion with both of you and also the audience. And yes, thanks a lot for the wishes for my daughter. And for the people that do not know, my daughter is just 10 days old today. And yes, I'm all being that designer dad. I already ordered some 4 different brands of diapers. I'm going to do an A/B testing and let you all know 1 week later.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm very sure that this is going to be the most adventurous and the most fulfilling journey of creation for you, Sapta. And like I said, I'm repeating myself, all the very best to the little family. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
See you around. Bye-bye.